Hello my friends, welcome to the channel. My name is Tracy. As always, I will be taking you through our car of the week. This week we're going to be looking at, yes, you guessed it, a Lincoln. Which Lincoln is it? Because I do tend to find that the bottom three anyway all sort of look fairly similar, especially from a distance. But today we're going to be looking at the Lincoln Nautilus. This is a 2022 model. I wish I could get a 2023, but they're not turning over the press fleets as quickly as we would prefer. But as far as I'm aware, there is no update for 2023, so the 22s, the 23s will be the same as the 22s. So this is a reserve model, which is kind of the mid-range. It comes with a bunch of options on it, as press cars tend to do. The first thing I want to comment on is I did a video week before last on the Lincoln Corsair. And I noted that that was a good-looking car. I like the way it looked, and I like the way this one looks. It has a good face, it has good proportions, etc. But if you were to look at them both from a distance, they look mighty similar. I got to tell you, they're both they're both 5-passenger SUVs, etc., relatively small. The Corsair is based on the Escape. This is based on the Ford Edge. Nothing wrong with the way it looks. They just look very similar. And again, I was talking about that in the Corsair video, and it's driven home by this particular vehicle. I don't know why they all have to look so similar to each other. I don't mind that a Lincoln looks like a Lincoln. I just don't know why they all have to look exactly the same. So anyway, moving on. This particular model we get, as is typical with luxury SUVs, a powered liftgate. While we're back here, we should look at the cargo area, which is very large. As I mentioned, this is based on the Edge, and the Edge is a good-sized, has good interior space for a small to mid-sized SUV. And you get a lot of cargo room back here. You get this big mat underneath which, if we lift this up, we get, look at that, a spare tire. Not an inflator, not goopy stuff you throw in your punctured tire. A spare donut. Go figure. I didn't think we'd see those anymore, but lo and behold, we did. So you get the cargo cover, etc., to protect your valuables from prying eyes. You get a 12-volt in the back if you're plugging in a pump or whatever the case may be. And if you want to drop the seats, you hit these, hold, pardon me, and then hit the other one, and that goes to, well, that one was aggressive. One thing I noticed about this is the seats don't fold flat. Even if there's nothing underneath them, etc., they just, I guess the stuffing or whatever the case may be, you're not going to be hauling plywood in this thing anyway, so that's perfectly fine. The kicker is, much like in the Corsair, these are not powered. You have to put them up manually, and we'll get to the price point of this thing, but for the dollars you'd spend on it, they should be powered. They really, really should. Nevertheless, they aren't, but that is the cargo area of the Nautilus. Pardon me, almost forgot. How could I get Captain Nemo's submarine? Okay, so since we're here, let's take a look, if we can, at the back seats. We'll slide, there we go, put that back in place. So the back seats in the Lincoln Nautilus. It's a nice place to be. The seats are soft, well padded, as we mentioned. You get, technically it's a 3-seater back here. If it's adults, you're not squeezing my button there, I'll tell you that much. But you can get 3 kids back here with relative ease. You get the usual center console with cup holders, etc. Nothing fancy in here. You also get one of the coolest things, or one of the most interesting things about the rear seats. You get obviously separate vents, you get seat heaters, and then if you flip this up, you get USB-C, USB-A, normal, whatever that is, and you get a household outlet as well. Very cool, lots of power back here, and that's nice to see. Sometimes I like to cut corners with that crap, but not in the Nautilus. You also get a panoramic sunroof, which we will talk about later on, but it does give you light back here. This particular vehicle is trimmed in light-colored leather, and associated colors on the ceiling, etc. So it's quite bright back here. It's actually really nice. It's a good place to sit, doesn't feel dark, and it is, as I said, quite comfortable. So there's the back seat. Let's get to the front seat and talk about that. I'm not even going to cut. I'm just going to walk over. I do too many. Oh, something we should talk about are the, what do you call it? This is the, I can't remember the name of the system. It'll pop up on screen. But this is something that Ford and Lincoln have done for generations, various types and stripes, technology, whatever. But I wanted to highlight this. I forgot to talk about it in the Corsair video. I love this. This is fantastic. If you're going somewhere and you don't want to take your keys because you're afraid to damage them, etc., just, hold on. we go. So they show up on camera. Just lock them in the car and then lock the car with these, and you can get in and out easy. Really convenient and useful in very specific scenarios. I love that, and I love the fact that they went away for a while, I think, if I'm not mistaken, from both Ford and the Lincoln lineup. So it's nice to see it back. A great piece of kit. I can't believe more people don't do that. Maybe they have a patent or something. I don't know. So we'll hop into the front seat. Fire up the car. There we go. Ooh, Nautilus. Why don't we start with the infotainment? I'm trying to change things up a little bit so people don't get too bored with my videos. So, hold on, I don't want to fire up my podcast. So this is your 13.2-inch infotainment system. It is touchscreen. If you use Google Maps, you can't move around. It's very strange. The touchscreen functionality seems to be a little limited when you're in CarPlay. In regular mode, CarPlay is limited to this part of the screen. It's a little irritating in the beginning, but you get used to it. It's not too bad, and the screen is big enough, thank God, that it's still a useful bit of functionality. So if you go to, say, the settings or what have you, you get your settings. I want to point out, it's a little laggy. This is Sync 4, I believe, but it's not too bad. You know, it works fairly well, etc. You get all the usual functionality and whatnot. I mentioned CarPlay. This has, God's be praised, wireless CarPlay. Really nice to see, got to be honest. Wired CarPlay just drives me absolutely bonkers, and I constantly complain about it, as regular viewers will know. Something else to touch on that's kind of curious is that right there is let me move in, the heated steering wheel controls. That is the only place that you can turn on and off the heated steering wheel on the Nautilus. Such a weird place to put it. It's not on the steering wheel. It's not in the center console. It's only there. That is a puzzler. I don't get it. It's so weird because I had a similar observation about the on-off button for the environmental controls on the Corsair. The only way you could get to that was to hit one of these center buttons. It would take you to the screen. You turn that off. In the Nautilus, we get the on-off button for the HVAC right there, which is great. We should have that. That's a good thing. But for whatever reason, it's actually, I think, in the same position pretty much. They've swapped out the heated steering wheel controls. And this heated steering wheel is something I use quite regularly. Not so much heated seats, but the heated steering wheel. Very strange. So this little side fixture here that kind of floats in the middle of the screen will give you whichever you want. You get sort of various functionalities depending on what you prefer. I would typically leave it here, or perhaps on my audio, whatever. Depends. That's entirely up to you. And then, yeah, that's about it, really. I could not find a way to turn that off, so that is kind of always there. Seems to be the way the whole thing is structured. Power to you, whatever you got to do. The center console here, the dash. It is a full digital dash, but like with most Lincolns, the tachometer and the speedometer are fixed. You can tinker through this little toggle here, the various functionalities, various trip computers, power distribution, blah, 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 the usual stuff. But that's about it. That's all you can change, really. There isn't much else to it. This Nautilus does not come with a heads-up display. That's a bummer. I really like heads-up displays, and it's disappointing that this vehicle does not have it. But hey, there it is. So steering wheel itself is actually a nice setup. These toggles catch some crap on the internet. I get what people are talking about. It's easy to slip or whatever, but I don't mind them. I've been using them for a couple of hours. I find them quite simple to use. So you get your volume control, get your cruise control settings, telephony. You can tinker with some of the center for navigation. That you can't put the navigation in the middle, but you can mess with it there. I don't know, useless functionality for me. And then telephony controls, etc. Moving on, you get the piano key. This is what they call piano key gear selection, which is cool. I like the way it works. In the Nautilus, they've integrated the start-stop button into one of these keys. It's cool, actually. I like it. It's a nice piece of design. Very cool, and sort of seeming to be consistent with the rest of the Lincoln design philosophy. You get audio controls, buttons and dials. Fantastic stuff. Buttons and dials for the HVAC. You get, this is not piano black. It's like a sort of a stripy gray. This vehicle currently has about 4,000 kilometers on it. And, I don't notice any egregious scratching or whatever the case may be. This thing, the cover for the compartment there, same thing. No real excessive scratches, etc. So maybe, I don't know if this is designed to hold up a bit better against the constant hammering. And if that's the case, I don't know why it wasn't included here around the cup holders, because we get standard piano black around there, which typically takes a beating and sort of looks like crap in short order. But you do get wireless charging, USB-A, regular, whatever, USB-C, and inside the console, which is, it's got this parcel shelf thing that Ford does, and then you get a 12 volt or cigarette lighter, and that's about it. Little carpeted storage compartment. It's fine, not huge, but it's got some space, and that does it for the console. Have to touch on the leather yet again. This is a high point of Lincoln vehicles. Very high quality leather, soft to the touch. It's nice under your butt. They've got it scattered across the dash, etc. It's nice to touch. Really cool. One thing I would love to have seen is them extend that to, Lincoln extend that material to the headliner. For whatever reason, you get this nylon-y stuff or whatever it is, polyester. It's fine, but in a vehicle of this class and price point, I would love to at least see Alcantara. You know, imagine that across here. It would look fantastic, look really nice. But they haven't done that. And I mean, if they wanted to make it super premium, they could slap some leather on there. I'm sure it wouldn't cost that much. That might even be something I would pay for, because not only does it look great, it's actually easier to clean too, if you're a little obsessive about keeping your car clean, like I am. But anyway, that's a bit of a letdown. I don't like this material at this price point. Otherwise, it's fine. But yeah, anyway, moving on. I think, my friends, that covers everything. So we should get driving. So the Lincoln Nautilus is a renamed, the Lincoln MKX. Correct? Yeah, MKX. So that is, Lincoln has wisely chosen to move away from their like letter-based or alphanumeric, whatever you want to call it, nomenclature. They've started giving their cars names, which I think makes a ton of sense. Nautilus is a great name. I like that name. Can't believe it was still available. Ford sort of does the same thing. I know that there are exceptions to that rule, but I like that. I think that's a fantastic idea. You know, a bunch of letters don't really inspire anything in people. Names do. It's as simple as that, you know. Even Acura went back to producing the Integra instead of the RSX or ILX or anything else with an X in it that they prefer. You know, I think car makers really have to just put the time and effort into naming their cars. So kudos to Lincoln for doing that. I think that's a good idea. Nautilus starts at about $58,000 Canadian. This one, a pretty spanked up version, tops out around $78,000 Canadian. Yeah, we're gonna have the price conversation again. It's a ton of money. I won't roll you through all the options that are available. I mean, there's BMWs, there's Mercedes, there's Cadillacs, there's Lexuses, Acuras. Every manufacturer makes a vehicle in this class. I won't suggest one over the other, but for $78,000, you know, I mean, the Corsair had the same problem. You know, it costs so much money. Nothing wrong with nothing, but the car was fine. You know, but in terms of dollars and cents, that and the Nautilus just aren't providing value for money. I just don't think they are. You know, if I had to choose, you know, German or luxury Japanese or Lincoln, I would choose one of the other options. You know, if this was more competitively priced or offered, you know, more for less, then yeah, you know, I mean, it would be a good option, because this is actually a pretty solid car. I like this vehicle. It lacks certain bits and pieces, like the back seat should be powered, you know, up and down, etc. The headliner thing, a bunch of little stuff, but it's actually a really decent car. I just think if you're gonna get into spending, you know, that much money, you got a lot of choices and you got a lot of test drives to do. So, you know, if you're comfortable with, you know, perhaps a base model or something like that, it's going to make it a much more reasonable proposition. Lincoln has figured out that you can charge a lot of money for not a lot when you start speccing in various options packages, and all their competitors are guilty of the same thing. I guess that's how they make money on these cars. I don't know, but yeah, for nearly $80,000, I know Canadian money, not worth much, but it's still $80,000. Yeah, you got a lot of homework to do. So if you're going to buy a Nautilus, you have two engine choices. You can get the sort of ubiquitous 2-liter turbo pot that's available in many of the Ford Lincoln products. That'll get you about 250 horsepower, 280 pound-feet of torque, something like that. This Reserve model comes equipped with the 2.7-liter turbocharged 6-cylinder from It's actually the exact same engine that I have in my Ford pickup that I drive on a daily basis. In this particular iteration, it will give you about 335 horsepower and 380 pound-feet of torque. That is a very decent amount of power. It actually surprised me. I didn't realize they'd put that much in this, as an option anyway, in this car, and I like that. I think that's a good thing. One of the ways Lincoln sort of gets beat on by its competitors is power. You know, it doesn't always have to be in a sporty presentation, but it's nice to have the grunt if you need to do some passing or, you know, any other sort of more aggressive oriented driving. And it's a good thing. It's nice. I have much experience with this 2.7 liter, and it's a good engine. It's a little muted. Yeah, and I think they do that for control purposes. You know, it keeps it very balanced vehicle to drive, something, you know, that you always have control over, etc. But you have the power when you need it. If you want to and you mash your foot down, she'll go. It'll go, pardon me. As I mentioned earlier, the Nautilus is based on the same platform as the Ford Edge. I like the Edge a lot. I've actually had quite a bit of time behind the wheel of a couple of different iterations of the generations, I should say, of the Edge. The thing that always struck me about the Edge is how big it felt. It's hard to describe, as certain things are, but I really like the way that car drives. Felt like a mini tank, if you will. And this kind of has the same feeling. It feels, when you get behind the wheel, it doesn't look very big from the outside, but you get behind the wheel and you can feel sort of the girth of it and the size of it and the weight as you drive, if that makes any sense. So it's nice to see that the Nautilus has retained that characteristic. So as I mentioned, we have about 335 horsepower at our disposal. It is not an electric amount of, or it's a good amount of power. The way they present it to you is it's not designed to give you the fizz, as they say. It's for utility, right? You know, for, as I said, passing, etc., blah blah blah. But it is usable, and if you mash your foot down, well, there we go, and she will go. You know, and the all-wheel drive keeps you nice and straight. Slow down before I get a ticket. I need my driver's license. You know, and it's good. Lincoln seems to have made a decision that they're not going to compete with some of their competitors on like the sportier side of things. They seem to have chosen comfort and sort of, you know, smoothness as their thing, and that's cool. I like that. I like that's a confident decision. So the Nautilus kind of sits in its market segment as a bit of an outlier, if you will. If you don't want German, if the Japanese leave you a little cold, or, you know, Genesis as an example, the GV70, is that the one? GV70, alphanumeric nomenclature. If they just gave them names, I'd remember better. You know, that's another good option. The top of the line model of that will give you something that competes with this very effectively. But it's a more sporty oriented experience. And I mean, Genesis doesn't have the brand recognition that Lincoln does. So yeah, I mean, there's a group of people out there who really enjoy their Lincolns, and that's fair. You know, I got some interesting comments and opinions on my opinions about the Corsair. So what I said about the Corsair. So, you know, I mean, every car has its fan base, right? I think Lincoln knows who they're going to sell this to, and that's who it's very squarely aimed at. In this particular instance, though, that just doesn't happen to be me. All right, my friends, well, that's going to do it for the 2022 Lincoln Nautilus. It's also going to do it for me, your host, Tracy. Thank you all very much for watching. It'll be interesting, actually, to see how this video performs. My video on the Corsair, which I think was of sort of similar quality to what I've been producing, has not generated a lot of eyeballs. So I don't know if that's a Lincoln thing or it's a Tracy thing. I guess we'll find out. But thanks again for those who did watch, and for those who watched this one. Much appreciated, and we will see you all in the next one. Have a good day.